Zweig Group invites all AEC industry leaders to the 2024 AEC Small Business and Entrepreneurship Forum, the premier event for small firms in the AEC sector. Experience innovative strategies and insights on May 21st, crafted by Zweig Group's industry experts. Engage in keynotes and interactive sessions focused on recruitment, retention, and business growth. Join Zweig Group for this unique networking opportunity and take your business to new heights. Secure your spot today and be part of the AEC industry's future. Visit zweiggroup.com for more information. The Zweig Group team looks forward to welcoming you.
Welcome to the Zweig Letter Podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting guru Mark Zweig's straight talk in your ear. Mark has more than 30 years of experience helping AEP and environmental firms thrive. And these podcasts help deliver his invaluable management, industry, client, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter Podcasts let you develop professionally, wherever you are.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Zweig Letter Podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I am here today with none other than Mark Zweig himself. This is actually a special episode today because we've kind of started this new format where we're no longer reading the articles, but we're kind of just sharing insight, and you're hearing directly from the man himself, Mark Zweig, on his thoughts and ideas on the trends and things that are happening within the AEC design industry as he sees them. And so certainly with the Zweig Letter running continuously since 1992, we have been the standard bearer of information and trends within the design industry, and we would like to remain that way. And so that's one of the reasons why we did this podcast in the first place. And so we hope that you're getting some great information from this. And today is a little bit of a different episode because we are talking a little bit about Mark's life. And for those of you that don't know, Mark lost his father, Fred Zweig, in August of this year, August 16th, he passed away. And Fred lived a long, long life. I had the pleasure of meeting him my first time around when I joined Zweig Group, and he didn't live too far from here in Fayetteville, where we are recording this. He lived up in St. Louis, but Mark, I was surprised that he was able to do this so soon after his father's passing, but he had a moment of reflection, and he really shared from an article that he wrote for the Zweig Letter, and the article is entitled "Whose Hero Are You?" And I'm just going to read something before he starts sharing and talking about this particular episode. The choices you make, how you spend your time, and who you spend it with will ultimately determine your success or failure as a professional and as a person. And that I read that, and it really stood with me. And so, Mark, you obviously can tell it better because he's your father, and he meant so much to you and impacted you and your siblings and your mom, who's still around at the ripe old age of, I guess, 96 or something like that. But yeah. I mean, I think that's great. You got some genes on your side, so I think the odds are in your favor. That you'll be around for a long time. Maybe we'll be recording this podcast in 20 years. Who knows? So,
I don't know about that.
Just tell us a little bit about your dad and how he impacted you, and really what you were hoping to convey from this particular article.
Well, yeah, he was an amazing guy. Of course, everybody probably thinks that about your parents, but you have to know my dad, he grew up very poor. His mom was married 5 times. He was shuffled around a lot as a kid. He had to sleep on the porch in a 3-room apartment many times, even in the winter. And he grew up, he had a really tough childhood, but he retreated into study and just would go to the library and learn about things. He was a guy, his dad worked for the railroad. He saved all his lunch money, and he would take the train to Love Field in Dallas and take flying lessons when he was a kid.
Wow.
I mean, he was just, because you got a rail pass if your dad worked for the railroad.
Right.
And he didn't have a lot of advantages, but it never stopped him. And then, his first real job was taking cars apart in a junkyard 6 days a week. And it was a terrible job. He rode the bus each way, more than an hour each way, and worked 12-hour days. And then he worked in a factory after high school, couldn't afford to go to college, and worked in a factory making ranges, gas and electric ranges. Tried to sign up, for the war. Wouldn't let him in. Had bad eyes and some other problems, but eventually did get in, and then rose through the ranks as an enlisted man to first lieutenant. Went to officers candidate school. Was in some unbelievably terrible situations in World War II. He would take some guys and go behind enemy lines and scout out locations to blow up bridges and things like that. That's what he did. And they had situations where, they were surrounded and all his guys got killed. He survived. Swore he'd never work in a factory again after that. And then when he got out of World War II, he married my mom, who was his childhood sweetheart, and then he decided he was going to go start selling advertising, and became very successful. He was really, one of the original madmen of advertising. I mean, it was amazing. We had an architect design house in 1949. He drove a white Jag. He had amazing clothes. And he just did he operated at a very high level. I mean, considering somebody that came from his background to get to where he did. And then eventually became disillusioned with that and went into the management consulting business because he felt like he couldn't solve companies' problems just with marketing.
Right.
They were always more fundamental than that. And he, studied world's religions, all science, psychology, history. I mean, the guy was probably the most widely read person, knowledgeable on a broad range of subjects of anybody I've ever met. But the bottom line was, for me, he was always encouraging me to take chances. He was always there to reinforce the fact that you didn't need to follow the pack and you could make your own way. And if things went wrong, that you dust yourself off and you could get it back together and be even better than before. I mean, that was sort of his overarching message, because I think that was his own life experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like following the road less traveled.
Yeah. He really, the other thing to him was this, he was preoccupied with this idea that fear of death holds people back. So they don't live because they're afraid of dying.
Yeah.
And so, he certainly confronted that himself many times.
Yeah.
And so that was always pounded into me. And I shouldn't say pounded. He was relentless though in his preaching. There were times it was a bit much, but the truth of it is, we were talking about him here recently. My siblings and I had all gotten together with my mom, and we were talking about the fact that even though he's gone, and sorely missed, we know exactly what he would say to us in any situation.
Yeah.
He was so powerful, and his philosophy was so overarching and ever present that it's just like he's there, because you know what he'd be telling you.
Yeah.
No matter what you're going through. And so it's great to have somebody like that in your life, for sure.
Well, it sounds like obviously he was a compass for you in your personal life, but also in your professional life. Because knowing you as long as I've known you, it seems like you've run this business and run this company along some of those precepts that he laid out for you a long time ago. And I know that that's important to be successful in business, but it's also important to kind of figure out a way to leave a mark and leave a legacy so that somebody else has a beacon to follow for the future. So I know I personally feel like, you've given that to me and to others around here. And it's actually one of the reasons why I decided to come back and work with the firm, because aside from the unfinished business I felt like I had with the organization, I think that there was a lot that you had imparted about running a business and about doing it effectively. And, reading this and seeing how much your dad impacted you, I can see a lot of the lessons that he taught you in the way that you've operated and run this business and done it, at a successful level too. So, I know whose hero you have in your mind as far as that's concerned. And so we all have heroes in our lives. Some are with us and some are not. But man, thank you so much for just kind of sharing that thought and insight. And I know you could go on and on about your dad, but is there any parting thought that you want to share with the audience about him and as we close?
I just think, you got to be thinking about whose hero you are, and what are you putting out there, and how are you influencing people in a positive way, and what are they going to, will they know what you would say if you weren't there,
right?
And you just try to do the best you can. I mean, none of us is perfect. We all make mistakes. If you screw up or you make a mistake or things go wrong, then don't feel like you have to be infallible,
right?
Either.
Yeah.
But I think we do have to think about the example we set and the legacy that we leave. I know that's always been important to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Certainly with your children, but also with the people you work with and the clients that you interact with. I mean, we're all part of a family, really, in a system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's just. I think you have to have a life philosophy. It has to guide everything that you do. It's just like, and that becomes part of the strategy for the company. That has to guide every decision that's made.
Yeah.
And it's all part of this system that is either going to produce a positive result over time, and you're going to create a goodwill, or won't.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's hard to separate the private from the public life. And so certainly the two will meet and come at some intersections. So you want to make sure that that's a positive one. So, well, man, thank you so much for sharing and just being transparent about that experience. And certainly we really appreciate you doing that. So folks, this is, again, another episode of the Zweig Letter podcast, and we certainly hope you enjoyed this and Mark sharing on his dad, Fred Zweig. We're going to close out with that note. I think it's just it's appropriate that we'll end this way. Again, I want to encourage you guys, if you like the Zweig Letter podcast, please share it with a friend. Please check us out on iTunes, and you can give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. If you don't, email us and let us know, and we will figure out a way to correct some things if there's something that we're missing. But we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, whether it's in a car, whether you're on a treadmill, or just taking a break from work and listening to what we have to share. Obviously, our mission here at Zweig Group is that we exist to make our clients more successful. This podcast exists to make you more successful, even if it just imparts one simple idea that you're able to take back and use both on a personal note, like what we heard today, as well as on a professional level. So certainly want to encourage you to continue going out and doing and building and creating and designing and making great things, because that's certainly what this industry does. And if no one has reminded you previously, I want to remind you today that your efforts are certainly not in vain, and they are appreciated. So continue building this great country because we still have a long way to go. Want to thank you guys so much for participating in this podcast. Again, you can get a free subscription to the Zweig Letter for 6 weeks by visiting freetzl.zweiggroup.com. Check us out. We'll send you an electronic version for 6 weeks. If you like it, you can subscribe. We've got some great programs coming out in 2017. Certainly would love for you to participate in that and share this information with everyone that you come in contact with. Thanks so much for listening in to this episode of the Zweig Letter podcast. We will see you next week. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this Zweig Letter Podcast. We hope that you can apply Mark's no-holds-barred advice to your daily professional life. For a free 6-week subscription to the Zweig Letter, please visit freetzl.zweiggroup.com to gain more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about leadership, finance, HR, and marketing your firm. Subscribe today.